Hey guys, Nick here. This is part 3 of our series on working with dates and filtering them, creating ranges, etc. Useful little manipulations, in my opinion. So, what we did in the first few videos, the first two actually, was that we started off with this node. We created a date range, right, from October 1st through October 16th. Then in the second video, we learned how to filter this data table over here based on a particular date or based on a particular range of dates, right? So now we're taking it a step further, a little bit more advanced, and we're talking about how can we implement date-based filtering in a reporting workflow, right? Where we don't want to have to come back in every time we run the workflow and update these values, right? How do we set it so that every time I update the data at this starting node, right? Every time I update the data, how do I get it so that the output at the end of everything, right? If we write it to a table, so the output only writes the latest dates values, right? So to do that, I'm going to walk you through it. It at first seems a bit complex, but honestly, it's not too bad once you understand the logic. And then once you get the logic, you can just group everything into a component and you're off to the races. All right, so let's get started. This was the node we used to filter for a specific date or for a date range. We'll move this off to the side because we don't need this anymore. We're going to be working with these nodes over here. These nodes over here to get us set up in figuring out our max date and filtering for it. So I'm going to set these up in their own little, let's call it a group, but really I'm just going to create an annotation. All right, so now visually it's easy to see that they're their own group within a workflow. I'm going to make these purple, right? So now we know this is where the filtering for max date is going to happen, right? And actually, let me clean this up a little bit. So what we're going to do is going to move these all down a little bit so then we can add a note in case we ever have to come back to this thing. We know what we're doing here. So filtering for max date in data set. So now we'll bold that and we'll make this 15-point font so we know what we're doing here. All right, easy to look back and understand what we're doing. So first, what we're going to do, I'm going to show you which nodes exactly you're going to need to pick out, right? So that's based on the fact that in this table that we're starting with, we only have the date available. We don't have any other details such as the year, the month, the week, etc. So what I'm going to need you to do is find or look up in the node repository, look up date, and then grab if you go all the way down, well, not all the way down, but towards the middle, look for this date and time to string, right? You're gonna bring that out, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna grab, you can do 2 instances of it and then copy paste the output later, right? Because this, if you look at these two, you have year and then the day number, and then here you're going to have a year and then the day number as well. So however you want to do it, but I'll walk you through how it's done, right? So once you have those 4 date and date time to string nodes set up, then I want you to look up the group by node. And here, pretty straightforward, bring the group by, drop it over here, right? You're good to go there. Then finally you're going to need the joiner node, then the rule-based row filter node, and then finally the table writer so you can write it to something, or if you're going to keep going in your workflow, then you know what else to connect it to. But notice the important piece now is when we're filtering for the max date, I'm not going to use the date and time based row filter like I did previously in the second video. I'm actually going to use the rule based row filter, which I mentioned in the second video is specific for text or numbers, right? But not dates. But you guys will see why we're using that in a second, right? So first things first, we're going to start with the date and time to string nodes. What we're going to do is connect our data output to each of these, our data output to each of these, and now we're going to configure one. So I subtitled it year so it's easy to see that this is the year portion. So double click to configure it. What you're going to do is only have your date value in this field, right? And what I need you to do is under date format, you're going to type in Y for year. Really what you can do with this date and time to string is you could even take that date and write it to a string, right? Because this is what we're doing. We're taking the date and writing it as a string. You could write it as a string which signifies the day of the month, the day of the year, the month number, the year number. You see how the preview changes with every letter I type in? You guys can see what syntax is allowed when you pull in your node for the first time. I already had these preset up for the tutorial, but let me just show you. That's why the syntax wasn't there. But if you connect it to a fresh one, double click, these are the values, the different combinations of how you can set up your output to look like, right? So you can have it as complicated as year, month, day of the month, hour, minute, seconds. Too much in my opinion. We don't need all that. So get rid of that, go back to hours. We just want the year first, right? Want the year as a new column, and we're gonna label it the year over here, the name of the column, right? Or the suffix of the column. Hit OK, and we're gonna execute. Oh, did not execute. Hit F7 to execute. Now look at your output table. So now what you have is this new column over here, date and time year, and it's basically the year of each date within the row. So that's the first step, right? We'll run two instances of it, one here and one here, right? And I'll show you what the difference is after this next node. So let's take this output, connect it in both levels to this new date and time to string, and all we're doing is same concept as before, except now we want the day of the year, right? So use a capital D, or I think you can use the lowercase. No, it has to be a capital D to get the day of the year. Otherwise, if you use lowercase, this is actually the day of the month, right? So we'll do capital D for day of the year. We'll append a column, and we're going to title the suffix day number so we know it's easy to read and we know what we're working with, right? So these are both set up the same way. We'll execute. So now if you look into the output, now you've got, all right, if we sort these ascending so the dates are going up, now you can see we've got the year and the day number of the year. So October 1st or 10/1 is day number 275. Then as you go up, October 3rd is day number 277. October 5th, 279, so on and so forth, right? So I think you guys are probably catching on now. What we're doing here is we're basically going to pick out the max day number, right? But before we get there, we still have a few more steps, right? So what we're doing next is a big difference you need to pay attention to. This top row, what we're going to do is we're going to keep our data table, our input data table, this VLOOKUP that we did. We want to keep this untouched, static. All we did was add the year and the day number. In this bottom layer, it's the same thing as the top right now, right? But what we're going to do is we're going to take it a step further. We're going to use a group by node. And in this group by node, the goal is to pick out the maximum date, right? If you go to configure it, the maximum, Jesus Christ, my brother's playing more Xbox. All right, we're going to go to the maximum date. Sorry about that. We're going to go in here to the aggregation field, and you're going to move your day number field in here, right? So let me show you from scratch. This is what it would look like. Double click the day number, and now in the aggregation, you're going to want to click into it and look for maximum, right? So what this is doing is it's going to give us the maximum day number, right? And it's going to give us a maximum day number for this particular level. And the level or group that we want is only the year. So give me the maximum day number for the particular year that we're in, right, in this data set. After that, you hit apply, you hit OK, right? So pay attention. This is our current data set as it stands, right? So it's the original data set with the date and sales attached. Then we added in the year. Then we added in the day number. Now, when we click into this, hit F7 to execute, and then we look at the output. Now you've got simply the year and the maximum day number of that year within that data set, right? So let's see if it lines up. Let's see if it lines up over here. So what this is saying is day 289 is the maximum, or the most recent, if you think about it, day number in this data set. Let's compare that. If we sort this descending, look at that, 289 is the maximum. So we're halfway there, right? Now the next piece is we want to think about it like this. We want to take this data set, and what we want to do is add in this max day number as a new column, right? So then later we can filter if this data set, the day number doesn't equal the max day number, then I don't want it included, filter it out, right? So that's the thought process behind this. So to do that, we're just going to do a simple join. Now that we have the year in here, in this data set, we're going to join it based on the year, or do a VLOOKUP based on the year, right? So to do this join or VLOOKUP, you need your joiner node. Take your top table with all the detail into the top input port, and then this one with only the max day into the bottom input port. Remember, top input port is the left table, bottom input port is the right table, right? That's important when we configure this joiner. We just want a left outer join. We only want the details from the right table to be joined to everything in the left table. That's what the left outer join is, right? We're going to join based off the year because we know we both tables share the year in common. Column selection, you can leave it as you can leave it as is, right? You can include all the columns, but then what you should do is in this append custom suffix, I would type in max, because what's going to happen is, what this does is the duplicate columns, it'll add this suffix to it. So you see where here the right table has day number, just like the left table does. The right table will get this suffix, and we know the right table is specific to only the maximum day number. So we'll label it as max, so it's easy to see. So now we'll hit apply, hit OK, execute this node. Now let's look at the output. We should see that maximum day number as a new column going up and down against the first data table. There we go. And now the easy part, go to our rule-based row filter, right? And now what we want to do here is say the day number in the original data table has to equal the day number from the max data table. If that's the case, then the condition is true. Oh, needed to be caps. Condition is true, and we'll keep those rows. If the condition's not true, the rows will get filtered out. So we'll hit apply, hit OK, hit execute, and now we should only see the values for the maximum day. I believe was 289. There you go. That, ladies and gents, is how you filter out for the maximum date within a data set, and it's already set up to be automatic based off the dates that are in your data table. So when I go in and update my data tables, right over here, then I execute my workflow, whatever the max date in the data tables is will be used to filter out over here and give me the values for that max date. So if you guys have any questions or any comments, just leave a comment. Like always, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. I've got more videos coming out. And if you guys just want to let me know if there's anything in particular you want videos on, I can do that too. If not, I'll catch you guys on the next one.